Hello and welcome to our panel debate today at the Interreligious Dialogue tent about the situation of small religions, so-called small religions in Frankfurt. My name is Sarah Wohl. I'm the manager of the Frankfurt Council of Religions, and I'm very happy to be here today with two distinguished members of the Hindu and the Hindu community in Frankfurt and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we are expecting a third person who should be here shortly and who will join us when he arrives. So to my left is Dr. Ralf Grünke. He is a political scientist who studied for a PhD and has researched and published on political extremism. And he is the public relations officer for Germany and Europe of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which has its headquarters here in Frankfurt. He's been in that role for 15 years, and we're really happy to have him here. And then next to me, I have Mr. Biju Nair. He is from the south of India, from Kerala, and has been in Germany for 20 years. He is the founder of the Frankfurt Hindu Association, which he founded 12 years ago, and is still an active member of that community.
Thank you.
Yeah, and yes. So I would really like to hear from you a little bit about your communities in Frankfurt, just the basics, maybe where are they, how big are they, what does your everyday practice and meetings look like?
Okay, starting from me, as you already mentioned, I'm representing the Hindu Verein in Germany, particularly we located in Frankfurt, so we concentrated more in Frankfurt. The reason we found such an organization is to bring our community together. That is the main purpose, because we are like foreigners or one-time foreigners. Now most of them are more or way German members now, or they part of the Germany. But in certain times, certain years before, we found difficulty that how to communicate each other, how to exchange the culture between Germany and India and the way of life. This was little trouble in the earlier days. That was the main reason why we thought by that time, around 10, 12 years before, how to found a way to segregate or to come together and to exchange the culture between the countries. That was the main purpose of such a mission. So it's going. Still we have challenges because of different reasons. So we had to go further, getting more integrated to Germany and the German culture, exchanging both together.
And maybe how many members do you have in Frankfurt?
Yeah, members, there are two concepts of member. Member means like a community as such. We have around 60,000 families, Hindu families, but there is a long history, because if you look back, the real migration started somewhere in the 50s. And that time it was not really the Indian Hindus, rather the Sri Lankan Hindus, because of political issues by that time existed in Sri Lanka. And then later in the 1960s and 70s, they had some other issues in India, again as in the term like asylum, we had from the people from North India which has come up. And then it was going slowly, then there is no much migrations. And in the year 2000, we have a big gate opened from our great Chancellor, Mr. Schroeder. He opened the concept of highly skilled immigrants. So then we have a very big flow, and we are also one of, I heard that I am one from among the first 100 who migrated during that time. So then there was a difference of concept, the way of life, because the earlier people who had come just for survival, and in 2000 the people has come to excavate more and to achieve something more. That was a different thought the people has got. And in the earlier days, they all stand together, and that's the reason why we have more population in NRV, because altogether we are talking about 160 to 170,000 Hindu families. And from these 160,000 Hindu families in Germany, 1/3 is located in somewhere in Hessen, and the second 2/3 is in North Rhine-Westphalia, and the remaining is segregated all over Germany. That's a difference. And here again, when we come, we also have like Sri Lankan Hindu temples in small regions. And you also know there's a very big temple in Ham, which is a Hindu temple, because of the population concentrated in that area. And due to the difference of the reason why the people migrated, when it comes to 2000, this like highly skilled immigrants, they don't think about money or survival, rather they want to think of the future, to build up the future, and schooling, education of the children. So they are all little into the what you called aggressive phase of achievements. So then we thought how to hold the culture together. That is more important, because one side is aggressiveness to achieve something, other side we should not lose our culture, and we should also respect the place where we are. So that means we have to respect the culture of Germany. As you know, as we all know, that's Evangelisch and the Catholic culture, and we should also learn from that what are the things to give and take. So this is the purpose, or this is the main reason why we thought of having an association to exchange the culture and to hold together.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I have a lot of questions, but I think maybe we let Dr. Grünke give us a small introduction to his church as well before we talk a bit more.
I'm very curious too, and I'm just so very impressed with all the community building that you have mentioned. Very impressive indeed. Now, the congregations of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints aren't organized based on city limits or state boundaries. There are several congregations, 2 of them specifically in the city of Frankfurt, but there are more congregations located in the larger Frankfurt area. If you consider all of our members in the Frankfurt area, there are about 2,000 of them. Interestingly enough, our church organizations, roughly comparable to Catholic diocese, the Catholic diocese, are called Stake, which matches the theme of this interreligious dialogue tent, because it refers to an image in the Old Testament of stakes holding the tent of God and all of God's people. If you consider that there is yet another such stake headquartered in the Taunus area in Friedrichsdorf, we can add another roughly 2,000 members to our congregation. At the same time, and I think I should mention that, while we are a small denomination here in Germany, we very much feel part of the larger Christian community. That's how we view ourselves. We embrace our Catholic and Protestant and Orthodox friends as fellow Christians. So we don't necessarily have the feeling of being in the periphery, but we are at times aware of the fact that that our denomination is small in numbers compared to other denominations and compared to our church in other parts of the world.
Thank you. Would you like to ask something about that, or are you familiar with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
So far, I'm much into the Catholic and into Evangelisch.
Oh, sorry.
So the reason is that I'm not much into the Church of Jesus Christi, because from my knowledge, we are more involved in the Catholic and the Evangelisch. There is multiple reasons. One thing is, this is what we learned and heard many times. Second thing is, our children are studied in the German schools. So right from the first standard, we have the option to have their religious study. And right from the 5th standard, we have a mandatory subject to learn. So then we come to know about an option: Evangelisch, Catholic, or ethic. So my children has selected more due to multiple, funny reasons, more into Evangelisch. And nearby previously, when I lived around around 10 years, I was in Cologne, and before I moved to Hessen. So there near my house and school, we have Evangelist church and also Catholic church. So my children were both in the choir group of both the churches. So we are more involved with the regular activities. And there is another reason from India, or particularly from my state, Kerala, we have a very good community who are more Christians, who had migrated between 60s or 50s and 70s, 80s. It's a really big community. We are talking about Indian community, not only the Hindu community, but the other side is Christian community. They are like our family members. We are along with them every day. We are lived with them. And all these 20 years, we are like in one family living. So we are more involved with the regular Christian Catholic activities, so that we learn more about that. I heard once or twice about the Church of Christi, but not much into depth. And today is the first time I've heard that it also belongs to about the small religion concept, and how you contribute to the community. Maybe it is good if you can few words describe about it.
Yeah, what we've learned as a small denomination, that quite often it makes sense to be part of a choir rather than a soloist when it comes to humanitarian efforts, but also when it comes to fostering the greater good in the community and society. We are actively involved in interfaith dialogue. We've been part of the Frankfurt Council of Religions right from the beginning. I personally don't live in Frankfurt. I attend our services in nearby Hanau and was one of the founding members of the Interfaith Roundtable there. But also, I think it was very much visible about 5 to 6 years ago when we had a large number of refugees coming to our country, that our volunteers, our humanitarian arm, our humanitarian organizations contributed to projects here in Frankfurt and all across Germany, actually, as a matter of fact, all across Europe, often linking with other religious communities or with secular welfare organizations. Now, you mentioned that, we don't want to leave out the moderator, but if I can return a question, if I may. You mentioned that you attempt to both foster and maintain your identity, your cultural identity, and at the same time develop a respect for the country that you've become part of, that has become your second home in many cases. If you've been here for 20 years, Germany has become your home. How do you manage that, and do you feel that your efforts are properly acknowledged in the media or in the public?
That's a good question. Yeah, the reason, when we talk about Hindu or India, we don't live as a Hindu, or we don't, by birth, we didn't have something called Hindu. Because the Hindu concept, it's a culture. It has come from very old, 5,000 years before the Indus Valley and the Aryan civilization. From there, based on the way of life, we thought, okay, we need sun. So sun we have to fear and respect. Then it becomes like a god. We have to fear and respect water. Without water, we cannot live. Then we respect water, and we believe in it. And the air. So Vayu, Buddha, so many concepts we have in Sanskrit names. So that means when we think of a religion, behind the religion we have something called humanity or human aspects. And from their tradition we build up such a Hindu culture. And so that when we come to Germany as a Christian country, we did not see, or none of us, we see that, oh, you are something different than us. No, we are all humans, because none of us has seen a physical God. We all has a like something called a picture. You define it as Jesus with certain color and dress or something. We define our God and goddesses with a different color and creed and design or something, but none of us see that. So when we come to this community, we think that, okay, we are all one, but we have to exchange our culture, not the religious feelings or religious traditions. Rather, the culture should be exchanged, and we have to give and take from it. That means when we think, okay, like there are some misinterpretations about Hindu in India, about cows, about milk, or so many things. It's not like that, because the people see only some dirty part of it, not the real part. They don't want to go depth what exactly it is, rather just getting a bit and bit, and they demonstrate their own ideas. Thereby this cultural difference or religious differences come. When we think into the single platform, single table, when we all sit together, then we don't find a big difference. So this is the way how we built up our community, not to look into much into religion, rather in the human aspects of it, and to exchange it, and to be among the whole community. This is the way how we are spreading and preaching.
Yes, let me welcome our third guest today, Mr. Vinod Balakrishnan. He is the president of the Frankfurt Hindu Association, a fellow member just like Mr. Nair.
Good evening everyone.
Yes, great that you could make it. We're really happy to have you. No worries. Yes, and we were just getting introduced to both the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which Mr. Grünke represents, and then the Hindu Association. And maybe you can just jump right in and... Yeah. You know, exactly, we have one microphone, so we have to pass it back and forth, except for me. And maybe I can use this opportunity and also ask a question myself. You mentioned that your association is partially there to introduce your culture to Germany, but also to get acquainted with the German culture. How would you describe the relationship between culture and religion in your practice here and in your association? I mean, the idea of religion, the concept, it's a Latin term which is, you know, has strong Christian influences, and faith plays a central role in it, maybe more so than daily practice. And in some other religions, practice is more important, like also in Islam. So how is that for you?
Yeah, for us, like when we talk about, again, culture, yeah, culture is, we make culture with little behind the religion, not the religion is not the forward topic, yeah. So what we thought, or what we preach, or what we practice, okay, we have our own belief. That belief should be kept inside our house, the way how we had to build up, and the way how we had to worship. When it comes to the temple, okay, temple is a certain place where we think it is unholy, but we have our own limitations when we live in a different country, particularly in a Christian country or in a Muslim country. Certain countries give the permission to keep our own worship as our own way. Certain countries do not. Germany, as such, we have the permissions. So, but there are some limitations about the financial or the quantity of the people or the funding, and there are some limitations. So we cannot think what the way how we build up in India, the way how we worship it. So this limitation we already know. So thereby we keep, okay, wherever is possible. And also there another limitation, okay, to a qualified priest to have in a temple. That is also another limited one. And again, the full-time availability of a priest, that is again a limitation. So we all know about such limitations. Still, with our limited funding and capability, we build up, managed to have some certain temples in some locations, and there we used to go not like regularly on everyday basis, because as I told again, Hinduism is a culture, not the somebody taught that you have to do every day in the morning to go to temple, evening to go to temple, 5 times you had to do namaskar or something. It's not taught to us. It is a freedom for us to worship. And the way you worship, it is also, we have the full freedom to do that. So nobody is asking us to do in certain way or other way. So this gives us also the freedom to worship in our own way, either it is in our house or in a public place or in a temple. So thereby we also can, we can also live without disturbing the cultural integrity in other country. Thereby we are got accepted, we go together.
Thank you so much. I don't want to leave you out, but I think maybe you could tell us a bit about how many temples you have in Frankfurt. Is there one that belongs to your association, or are they shared between different associations?
Yeah, ours is an eingetragene Verein, so we are not running a temple. In Frankfurt, there are different Hindu community. Like Hindu community is the way we behave, the way we our culture. So different part of India traditionally follow different types of traditions. So there are 3 temples in Frankfurt region, in the main big city in Frankfurt region. So one belongs to Tamil community, one belongs to the North Indian way of handling. So there is another one which is basically mix of pan-Indian level. So these are the 3 temples in Frankfurt. Like Mr. Nair mentioned, this is not a compulsory that every week or every month somebody has to visit a temple. There are some Hindus living in Frankfurt, they never visited a temple because it is not a must. This is not an organized religion. So first of all, compared to the Western or the Abrahamic religion, they are organized. So there is a kind of hierarchies. And here there is, this is a very liberal religion. So you can practice it. It's a choice that how you wanted to practice the religion, what extent you wanted to do it. So there are some people, they are very religiously following every steps, like morning get up in the morning and then do their prayer at home. Evening also there is a prayer at home. There are some people, they don't pray, but they are both belongs to the Hindus. Yeah. Thank you.
Maybe I can just add 2 words to that. The reason again is a Hindu culture belongs to dharma and karma. That means we believe what we do or what is coming out of our mouth should be good. So that's what about the karma. What we do is the karma. So that means every day, morning and evening, take bath according to our tradition, take bath in the morning, go to temple or do the prayer. And after the rest of the day, do something what is mischievous or hurting others will not give the return from the God. That's what we believe. So we have to do a right dharma and karma. For that, we don't want to go to mandatory to go to a temple or to do a certain day a combined prayer. No. So we have the freedom to worship according to our ways, because if you see as a big country, it's much bigger than like Europe, yeah? So a country. So we have different traditions. In the north, we have porcelain and marble statues of the gods. But in south, we never do that. We all have the black stone as a god, as a figure. And in the north, they used to touch the entity. And as I also heard, or I understood, also learned, that even in the church, in the altar, we should not go with the shoes also. There is something as a way of handling or way of holding the worship. Yeah? So there are some limitations. And we also think we should not touch the deity, and we should also should not go with the shoes and the dirty dress. Again, it's having a double meaning. Okay, nobody will stop you if you go with a dirty dress to a temple, because why we think that we have to take bath and to have a nice dress, then at least we think our body and soul is purified. This is why we believe. But that does not, another part of the country, they don't believe it. So we have the whole freedom to do that.
Mm-hmm. So if I understand you correctly, one of the challenges of organizing your religious life here is that India is so large with so many different traditions, but here you encounter traditions that were not part of your practice at home, and you have to find compromises to incorporate them.
Exactly. That is also the difficult challenge. Why we as a Hindu association, we cannot simply go and build a temple or get the permission from the government to build a temple, because just like a few people from the South India, maybe 1,000 or 10,000, this contribution will not support to build up a temple or run a temple. We need the whole support from the whole India. Then the question comes, okay, who is going to support? So what type of belief we have to keep, what type of worship we have to keep. But whereas in the Hindus from Sri Lanka, it's a small country, they have a unified way of doing it. So they started building up temples in different parts of the country. This is a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Maybe we could pass the microphone to Dr. Grünke, because I think for you, you don't really have the same challenge, right? Your faith and practice has a unified tradition, and there are probably not big regional differences, or are there?
Now we have an international congregation here in Frankfurt, and of course people come with their own family traditions and with their own countries' traditions, but most of our members, and many of our members here in Germany, are of German origin. Some of them have belonged to the church in the second or third generation. So our challenges, our opportunities, our congregation life, I suppose, is very different. We also have rituals, ordinances, certain practices in common wherever you go. So it's a feeling of familiarity and being part of a family, even if you just go on vacation or on a business travel somewhere and you meet fellow Latter-day Saints there, immediately you feel like you have something in common and you speak the same language, even if there is a language barrier.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the other guests don't know that your temple here is one of 2 German temples, right?
That's right. So the idea of having a sanctuary that goes beyond day-to-day worship is familiar to our faith. Building on patterns found in both the Old and New Testaments, we have worship places, meeting houses for our Sunday services, for our congregational life, and then we have temples, which are more centralized sanctuaries. And as you properly pointed out, one of the 2 such temples that are located in Germany is just outside of Frankfurt and in Friedrichsdorf. And that may be one of the reasons why, well, depending on what standards or criteria you use to measure size and growth of a religion, but the Frankfurt area tends to be one of the strongholds of the church number-wise. Some members seek proximity to a temple. And then, as you also mentioned, while we are a lay ministry and all of our congregational life is organized and maintained and provided for by people in their own free time, there are no paid ministers in our congregation. Mm-hmm. There is a European church administration located in Frankfurt with full-time staff supporting our congregations and our some 500,000 members throughout Europe. So their employees, their families also live here. And that adds to the strength of the congregations in Frankfurt, but also surrounding the Frankfurt.
And would you call this a center that people from all over Germany travel to for the high holidays? Or do they rather celebrate those, wherever they live? And the Frankfurt Temple draws people from the immediate surroundings or greater Frankfurt area. How does that work?
Well, people travel to the Frankfurt Temple not only from various parts of Germany, but also from other countries, not necessarily for religious holidays, but for special family occasions or for seeking a higher level of, or in-depth level of spirituality. One of the ordinances, rituals offered in the temple is marriage. Is a special marriage ceremony that provides hope for a marriage to go and last until after death, for time and all eternity. So people go there for that occasion, for example.
Mm-hmm. An excuse that I don't know, but are there more temples in Europe, or is the German one especially important?
Well, there are a number of other temples. I'm not going to list them all, but there are temples in many other European countries. And just a few weeks ago, our friends at church headquarters announced that 3 additional temples will be built in Europe, in Oslo, Norway, in Brussels, Belgium, and in Vienna, Austria.
Right.
And there are already some more to come. A temple in Budapest, Hungary has been announced.
Okay.
So there will be more temples so that our members will have shorter distances to travel. Of course, the Frankfurt Temple to me as a German, plays a special role. And the reason we have 2 temples in Germany really stems from German history. Because the first temple built in Germany was the one in Saxony, in the former GDR, before the wall came down, to provide members living in the Eastern Bloc an opportunity to receive temple ordinances, to attend the temple, to experience that level of spirituality, who otherwise couldn't or only could under very difficult circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think go ahead if you want.
Yeah, as I told, I don't know much about the Church of Jesus Christ. I don't know whether you have a presence in India, because you mentioned once that the way of worship is more on the singing practice, you told. Near my house or in my locality also, we have some churches, we say it is Pentecost. I don't know whether it's both the same. I don't know much. The critical question is that how much freedom you give to other communities to come to you and mingle with you. Because what I learned or what I studied, maybe I'm wrong, sorry for it. The Pentecost in India, they don't really give the doors open for others, because they have a private way of singing and they are more concentrated to the way, and they don't want to make it open. It is, sorry for the critical question, yeah, it's not something against, rather the way what I saw it. At the same time, we have the freedom, more freedom to Catholic and Evangelisch. And for me personally, I regularly visit churches, and particularly from the community people from my state. We used to have a very big community. We regularly have the Sunday prayer. Whenever I have the time, I used to visit. And near my house where I live, when I have a church, I used to go there sometime in Saturday, not for a mass, because just wherever I feel that a little, what you call, private atmosphere, which I give, I can meditate, yeah, exactly, thank you. Something like, so with lighting a lamp there and meditate, that gives me something, a feeling. So I don't see what is a figure there, because that place gives an energy. That's what I am giving more. That energy from the light, the energy from the atmosphere, this all gives me a power. Thereby, I used to go to Evangelisch, as I told my children, learn through the choir group, and I used to visit in India and also in Germany. And also I visited mosques. So where at the same time, I don't see that much the openness to the Pentecost. I don't know whether how far is your way of worship from Pentecost? Are you almost similar? And how much freedom you give to other communities to merge or mingle with you?
Now, I have Pentecostal friends, but the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not part of the Pentecostal branch of Christianity. Now, we ourselves have the freedom, and I make great use of that to visit and mingle with other faiths. Interfaith dialogue is very important to me. Just 2 days ago, I had the opportunity to offer a prayer following my own faith tradition at a Baha'i memorial service for a close friend who passed away suddenly about a week ago. I've known him for years, working with him on projects at the Interfaith Roundtable in Hanau. And I've been involved in many interfaith activities. Now, when you ask how much freedom do we grant to other communities, our church is in a minority position in almost all across the world. I think in the kingdom of Tonga, 60% of the population belongs to my church.
What about the state of Utah?
What about the state of Utah? Well, the state of Utah, there about 70% of the population belong to our church. If you consider the country, the United States, it's only about 2%. And there are other even more populous countries than Tonga with a higher percentage. For example, in Chile or in Uruguay, there are more than 3% of the population belongs to the Church of Jesus Christ. They're Latter-day Saints. So, but where we are in a position of strength and have some ability or even power to define the public discourse. It's always been very important to us to be accommodating to other faiths. At the beginning, in the early years of our church, our faithful experienced fierce persecution. So it's a red flag whenever we notice that religious minorities, other religious minorities are discriminated against or ridiculed, or if their freedom of religion is to practice their religion is challenged. It is a red flag, and we stand by their side. If you look at, our host just mentioned the state of Utah, which is where my church is headquartered, and where a vast majority of the population belongs to my church. You mentioned Catholicism. The first Catholic Mass was celebrated inside the Assembly Hall on Temple Square, which is the very center of our faith, and it's one of our religious buildings. And still today, our relationship to the Catholic Church there, from what I can tell living over here in Germany, is constructive and mutually respectful. When the last president of our church passed away, the funeral procession went through the streets, and when he went past the Catholic cathedral, they rang the bells to honor him. So it's a matter of mutual respect. And yes, allowing each other to develop your faith and the scope of what you believe wherever you are.
No, I have a question. You mentioned your children attending the evangelische Protestant religious classes in school because it's mandatory in German to attend either religious or ethics classes. I don't know how that works for your family, but that is a question for me that would be interesting. Many countries don't have the system of religious education in public schools. How is that for you? Would you maybe want to have Hindu classes one day, or?
It's a good idea to have Hindu classes because now the country is open, the doors are open for multiple religion and multiple religious classes, I heard already. But coming back to the real population, we don't think that immediately to go for religious classes is the right one organized to, maybe good, better. But for me, like as I told, Hinduism is a culture. So it's an open platform for us. In India, we generally talk about some jokes because in a taxi or the small auto rickshaw, if a picture is kept with a cross, with Islam symbol and the Hindu goddess together in one photo is available. He is a Hindu driver. Because that's openness whereas the other religion, sorry for it, it's not a criticism, but this is how the Hindu culture and the religion is built up. Whereas the other religion, we have a systematic way of approach, and even though the openness is there, but that does not mean that, okay, you can do whatever you want. That's not. Because if I go to the church, I regularly go, but we are not allowed to take the wine and bread. It's not allowed. But whereas if you come to a Hindu temple, because in Hindu temple we have regular visitors in Hum or in Frankfurt temple, many people, European nationalities are coming. There is no separation that you take a tirtham, what you call, from the blessing from the God. There's nothing limited. You are allowed to take. And we respect that if you take it. If you do not take, no, sorry, then we have a separation. That's a difference. So thereby we think, okay, it's good that children education with our language, okay, better first is language and then the religious books. But again, we don't want our children just to go back just into the way of just in the name of religion. Rather, we have to make them to understand the global way of or openness, accepting all people as humans, not in the name of caste, creed, or religion. This is a way what we think. Thereby, we are not fighting or anything for a religious classes to organize in the country. Rather, to be part of the country and to give and take respect. That's what our motto is. Maybe Mr. Balakrishnan can say something more about it.
Yeah, I mean, we also see that. I mean, considering the very minority now, I think it is not the right thing to ask at this point of time. But we can see whether there are some schools or some localities where there are some Indian students more attending, or at least a considerable percentage. I don't know what is the marcation, like 10% or 15% or more than that. Then it is obviously, it's our wish, and it will be more appreciable if we can conduct Hindu religion classes in parallel to the Catholicism or evangelical classes together. And in the ethics, I also see my kids are also going to the school, and they are also taking sometimes ethics and another time religions. But the ethics class, the Hindu religion, at least in the German textbook or what they follow here, seems to be completely in an inappropriate way rather than it intended. So Hinduism, like this is the way of how you basically find your spiritual thing. And here they more focuses on caste, more focuses on the shape of the gods, and they many times even the kids are being ridiculed why your god is having an elephant head or something, but without knowing the meaning, and the teachers are giving a very wrong answer. For example, the Ganesha is one of the god, probably everyone is seeing that, with an elephant head, with a trunk and so on. So there are different symbols behind that, because the symbolization of a god is basically giving some qualities. For example, trunk is a quality that you can take a very easy thing and a very difficult thing with the same effort. And then there are something with the liquid. This is representing the knowledge. And then there are, so each of the symbols of each of the indications basically give you different kind of qualities and things what you worship. So you are worshipping somebody who has that quality. So we are basically worshipping the qualities, not the shape. So this is very important to understand. And here I see many times they don't understand the meaning behind that philosophy, behind that spirituality, and seems to be having and anybody can write anything about Hinduism, and nobody is going to make any big protest against that, because like I mentioned, this is not a religion of quarreling or religion of persecution. In the known history anywhere, like last 10,000 years, there was no religious persecution happened in India in the overall history. Yeah? So this is a kind of traditions that we follow, and this is the culture that we basically follow. And here also you will not find any Hindus normally involved in any religious hatred activities or religious high religious activities like this one. And we also don't find very few Hindus belongs to any criminal backgrounds or criminal offenses. Even if you look at in the Germany, if you look at the number of percentage, is quite low. So this is also in UK and all. This is a known study, and this is what we are proud of to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very that's a very good point. Even earlier, I also little indirectly touched this point, yeah, about the schooling and the way how it is taught. The Western media, they do not want to see what exactly is the fact behind, and they just want to see from the outside, and they populate what is an unknown issues. Like as I told again, the cow, meat, these are all nothing happening really in India. They want to create their own followers in the media, and they populate such things, as Mr. Balakrishnan told. Okay, and also you told about the education, yeah, ethics, but why we are, as I told that earlier, that's a funny reason why my children go to Evangelish, yeah. In the fifth standard, both my children, they started with ethics. After first year, they told, Papa, I don't want to continue because it was so loud, so undisciplined in the ethics class, and we don't learn anything. Instead of that, I will become a mischievous guy in the class. Second year, sixth standard, they moved to Catholic. There, every Sunday, every week, one day, we had to go to the church, we had to attend the mass, and we had to, Papa, I don't want to study too much. I am ready to accept, but I cannot be too much disciplined in this way. So what is the alternative? Still, I have to study something, I have to accept. So the 7th standard, they accepted the Evangelish. Oh, this is the fine. Then the second child automatically moves to Evangelish, because this is in between, not very aggressive, not very undisciplined. Rather, we are in the middle. Thereby, that's a fun. As I earlier told, there's a funny reason why my children move towards till the 10th standard. They continue with the Evangelish, without knowing what is the right or wrong. But we want to study something, better to study in the simplified, in the right way. And as Mr. Balasan told, if you think of India, we are not saying that's a Hindu country, because officially in the world, Nepal is only one Hindu country in the world. But still, there is no 100% population of Hindus. We have different Buddhists and different. In India, we have 82% Hindus, the remaining are Christians and Muslims, multiple other castes. We welcome them. Still, there are some issues happen somewhere, but that does not mean that it is a religious issue. When you or me, or when you come to my country and force me or indirectly force me to follow you, or I come to this country and indirectly or indirectly force you to follow my path, then there creates a little friction. Maybe one or other person creates a turbulence. That does not mean that India is against a Christian people or the welcoming others. No, it's not like that. This is the media is creating such stories, or one or two persons are creating such turbulence which create the whole mass and the wrong word. The same thing what Mr. Balasan told. Ethics, good to present the right way, because a few years before when I was in Cologne, I say a globe, defining globe in Aldi, with a map of all the countries, where the Kashmir is completely removed from India. Is this the right way? And again, in the few months before, we understood in the Northern Westphalen, we have a textbook which clearly defines that India is against women education and all. It's not like that. World leaders are there from the woman gender. Yeah, so the media is creating such problem, or some culprits are doing such thing. So as Mr. Balasan, okay, we are proven, we respect such things in the right way. We don't want to say that we are all the best and we are always right. No, but we have to show our culture, Hindu God or Hindu culture, or such messages that others should understand proper way. My children are studying also Hinduism, Christianity and Islam. And we are not peeping into something whether by Islam is allowed to marry five women. That is not our topic to discuss and go into deep. There is some reasons behind it, maybe good or bad. That is not none of our business. But why the other community or other medias are populating some dirty picture and dirty way of communicating? This is creating a small friction and issues. This is what we are, as a minority, we see as a big challenge.
Mm-hmm. The stereotypical depictions of
Exactly.
your tradition.
Because we have the freedom, we have the permission to go to temple, we are not doing anything unwanted, we believe in our worship, we have our festivals, we are doing traditionally with all the permissions. We also, every year, we also conduct traditions, we also make a suk in the public road with the permission from the state and from the police, but none of us create any problem. We never had any issues reported.
Mm-hmm.
This is the cultural difference on the way, but we face some challenges.
I think it's like that for many small communities. I mean, there's a reason we have this debate today on the topic of the situation of the smaller religious communities, because in spite of all the differences, I think there are some things that they may have in common here, like this stereotypical ideas that the majority have about them. Then the fact that there are fewer churches, fewer temples, and people have to travel longer distances to meet each other and to attend their services. Also, the fact that probably many of them have to be funded by private donations. There are no church taxes for the small community. So there are some challenges that I believe where you have a connection, maybe. And maybe you would also have similar demands to politics, whether it's on a local level or the state level or the federal level, as far as freedom of religion goes and the situation in schools, in the media. And yeah, I think There's a reason we could have had this debate in German, even with all of us. I think all of us speak German well enough. But the reason to do it in English is that Frankfurt has become so international. I believe that about 50% of the population stay only for 2 years and then leave again. And yeah, many have a so-called migration background. Many don't speak German, so it's great that maybe if they listen in today, they can actually understand what we speak about. And yeah, maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, like your ideas for Frankfurt or the Frankfurt area, as far as welcoming different religions go.
Yeah, well, let me just elaborate on the similarities you suggested may be found between various minority religions or denominations. In my case, I think I personally, as I pointed out at the beginning, would like to distinguish. I do belong to a minority denomination, but while mainstream Christian churches may not share my interpretation, I certainly view myself as a Christian and as part of the larger Christian community. Still, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not part of Catholicism, Protestantism, or Orthodox Christianity. So we are facing some of the same issues. My wife is a U.S. citizen. We've lived here for, well, the last more than 20 years. And when we enrolled our eldest son at elementary school, I noticed halfway through the process of having a conversation with the secretary there that I hadn't properly prepared my wife for the cultural experience, because first they ask about our son's name, about his birth date, and it's then we hit the point where the secretary asked, now, is your son going to attend Catholic, Protestant, or Muslim religious education? And to US Americans, the idea of offering denominational religious education at a public school is unthinkable. So she first thought that she had misunderstood the question and looked at me, and I assured her that yes, that's something that we need to discuss, and we discussed it at home. And then I think during elementary school, our son attended Protestant religious education. And when it comes to religious education, you mentioned textbooks at school. I've noticed that not only have members of my church become more open to dialogue and to giving up the feeling of otherness for the good of embracing the larger community. That's certainly a personal development that I've gone through since childhood. But I've also noticed a paradigm shift in the way that mainstream Christian churches have treated the minority, the somewhat different churches that also view themselves as Christian. Yet still in some of the textbooks I do come across stereotypes that aren't particularly favorable and, in my opinion, don't contribute to a mutual respectful dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any ideas how that could be changed? The unfavorable depictions in school books, for example, could they be counterbalanced maybe by visits to classes from representatives of the different denominations or religions?
Oh, I think that's happening, and as I've said, I've seen a paradigm shift. I've seen significant improvements and a significantly more fair portrayal of minority religions in religious education, religion classes at school, and we are always happy to contribute to that and to visit and to talk, while our youth attend extracurricular outside of school religious instruction. We have a program called Seminary, which is a 5-time-a-week religious instruction program for youth between the ages of 14 and 17. So my youngest son is enrolled in that. 5 times a week? Yes, before school.
How does that every morning from Monday to Friday?
Yes, well, my son has the luxury of just turning on his computer, particularly now during the pandemic, but also before that, I actually fondly remember riding my bicycle the 3 kilometers to our meeting house for a while to attend religion class before school. Helped me to start the day with a different attitude.
So at what time does it start and how long does it take in the morning?
I think it's usually a 30, 45 minute lesson, and it depends on where we are at on the schedule of the students. Often it starts at 6, sometimes at 6:30. It's voluntary, and like I said, I personally remember it fondly. I've grown up in this church since the age of 5, and I also attended Protestant religious education at school until the age of 14. Then they started offering ethics classes and suggested that may be a better place.
Oh, really? And did you agree, or would you have liked to continue with the Protestant religious classes?
Well, my parents were personal freedom, personal choice was something that my parents very much focused on. I was Christian Lutheran, so when my parents joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they regularly pointed out that it was a matter of personal choice for my brother and I, whether or not we wanted to attend church with them and be part of this. And out of that mindset, they never took my name off the Lutheran membership records. So I was baptized, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at age 8, and legally speaking, carried on a dual membership until I was 14, which, as you know, by comparison, international comparison, is very young in Germany, the so-called Religionsmündigkeit at the age of 14, when you can choose your own religion. So I went to town hall and resigned from the Lutheran church, and then also resigned from Protestant classes, and had a not so favorable encounter with my religion teacher. But like I said, today I think things are very different, and we have our young members, our students all across the country attending either Catholic and Protestant lessons, and their teachers are usually very accommodating, very friendly.
It sounds like there are actually very few demands that you would have or ideas for change, but then maybe we can just talk about daily practice and life instead, and maybe hear about how you organize the children's classes as well.
Yeah, I mean, here we do not have any student classes. I mean, normally for us, our religion's practice is more in solitude, and then you find your own way. So this is not an organized structure there. So we have the freedom to choose our own way, how we practice. I mean, mostly our spirituality our spirituality path is more like meditation, yoga, and more like you self-evolve yourself and then find it out. There are some tools and techniques, and obviously this is more international. This does not belong just for Hindu religion. Like meditation is practiced by everyone, and yoga is also practiced. Yoga is not just the physical hatha yoga. There are 4 other parts of yoga as well. So we are not giving. So our religion is still practiced at home. So it is still not in museum. So it's not like the old pagan religions, like Egyptian old religions or something. They are still in a museum. So ours is still, we are still practicing at home. So the parents normally give their handshake to the children and so on. Yeah. How long how much they can give, how long they can carry, that's the second question. So this is a challenge that we face in Germany, because the kind of environment is not available as probably as in India. So this is one of the challenge, but we don't expect that is a conscious decision from the parents that they moved here. So obviously, mostly for the economic migration rather than religious or any other migration. So all the 99% of Indians or Hindus living in Germany came on a economic migration, like finding a better job and better earning potential, than any backdoor entries or any asylums or something like that. Yeah. So this is something that we are. And children's, this is at home. We do some celebrations together. So when we are coming together, we are not in a teaching mode or not in a training mode, rather than it's more celebration. Like when we come together, then normally we come together for a celebration, and we do some Hindu celebrations together. Deepavali is one of these. Holi we are celebrating. Sri Krishna Jayanti we are celebrating. There are some Hindu religions. As an association, we are organizing that kind of festivals. I mean, not in pandemic, but before that, we were organizing some of the events, and then we were doing celebrations together on those auspicious days. But we don't conduct any. This is a good tip. So maybe we have to do some youth induction programs or some kids training programs. How they, some of the tools and techniques. Maybe we can also do as a kind of small religion. So this is a good tip that we welcome that. Yeah.
I'm impressed by that family approach, and religion, religious education, religious practice also starts in the family in the Church of Jesus Christ. It has made a significant difference now during the pandemic. I don't know if you had that in mind as a question, but initially it was in March of last year when we stopped in-person worship services worldwide. And initially, before we started having online services were held at home. And the fact that we have a general priesthood and a lay ministry significantly helped, meaning that at home, holding our own home services as a family, because men, women are both authorized to preach, to pray, to participate. My wife could preach a sermon, and my sons could bless the sacrament, or the communion, as my Catholic friends would say. That has significantly helped us. And if you say that religion is practiced in the family first, then I'm sure that's also helped you during pandemic times, because that religious practice in the family could just continue without disruption, despite challenges for the larger community and the congregations.
No, there's also multiple reasons behind what you both say. Okay, when we go back to the tradition in India, years before or centuries before, we have a concept called Gurukulam. That means students reside in the premises of the teacher, and it's like a one home. Yeah. So there we have an opportunity that early morning, as you told, to wake up, do the bath and do the prayer and do the religious studies, do the traditional studies and normal studies. And these are all happened once. But now, due to the aggressive modes of people thinking, economic reasons, stability, sustainability, multiple reasons, we cannot concentrate in such olden methods. That is one reason. Come back to this country, back to Germany. Now we have other challenges, like climatic challenges. We cannot, like early morning, take a bath in the winter and go out in the traditional way to do such prayers in the combined way in a separate location. So these are all, it's not like pushed back. Rather, we find our own way to keep our traditions and the culture little stable and little in the moral way. One way is the family. Yeah, exactly. We all have the tradition to morning bath and to do the prayer. But again, coming back, children have to push up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, they have to push to the school. So this is all not every day happening. So thereby we make it another way of having it like in a weekly basis. Previously we used to meet together as a prayer group in one of their homes, and also give, that's also multiple, again it's coming back not only to religion, more about the culture, because there we have to, what you call in English, learning by doing. So we preach our children the way how we respect our other families, elders, husband, wife, the relationship between the husband and wife, the relationship between the elders, grandfather, grandmother, and the next generation. So these are all built up, and whenever any one of our friends' parents come, we will invite them together with our prayer group. So these are all building up the cultural relationship indirectly, okay, we can say, okay, religious prayer, something, but prayer is only one, as Mr. Balakrishna told, it's only a tool to keep our culture and to keep among together. That's a big difference.
Well, it seems like we've learned it helps to be an early riser, both for a Hindu and a Latter-day Saint.
Yes, and I was also wondering about the priesthood. You mentioned earlier that it's difficult here to have a full-time priest. So that exists in India, I believe?
In India, we have many number of priests. We have the educational colleges to build up the priests and a selection criteria to be a priest for the temple. These are all happening in a standard way. But here, we cannot do that. So whoever is like what you call better than nothing. Whoever knows little, we have to accept what he is doing, whether it follows our way of worship and our way of how do you call the traditions, yeah. So maybe it differ. And also again another challenge is that being a country, very big country, different culture and different language. That is also another big challenge for us. Every state speaks our own language. So to get a person who can satisfy the needs of at least 2 states or 3 states is difficult. Then if you think of about 29 states, it's highly impossible. And the way of worship also, it differ, not big, but still. And even we have also certain festivals, as Mr. Balakrishna told, we have a unified way, and other festivals are all regional festivals. So these are all some of the challenges we see on day-to-day life.
When we call Hinduism, Hinduism is a very umbrella one. Below that, there are different traditions. Like if you read the literature, you will see Vaishnava tradition. That is basically where you see a god Vishnu as the main deity. And there is a Shaivite tradition. There is a Ganapatiya tradition. There is a Shaktaya tradition. These are all different way of tradition, different way of this one. And again, if you comes to the regional, so this is a umbrella, and then there comes the different traditions, and then comes the regional variants of this one. So one challenge, like in a country where it's outside that particular religion and particular tradition, one is difficult to get some priest which will follow exactly multiple traditions. So that is one challenge. The second one is again the liberalism. Yeah? Many Hindus living here may not be we were not learned to contribute something to the religion, because we don't have any religious taxes. We never give anything to a religion, or like a share of your income to be given to a religion or to a church or to the temple. So that was not technically a part of things that we grown up or we have it, or that is not part of the Hinduism. So then second, that basically attribute that to build up a temple or build up a priest here and having a full time to have a maintenance and do those fun. Currently we see that's a challenge, but this is something as an association we are working to see whether we can get some kind of priest here for a full time, because in Hinduism we have different at the different point of your life cycle, you have to follow some different rituals. Like when you are growing, when you are born, when you have 28 days, when you are basically going to the first time, the solid meals, then comes to the marriage, then comes to the last rites. So there are different things to be followed. And as a person who believe in that kind of traditions and this one, it is a happiness for the spirituality and happiness for the people, whether we could follow that kind of practices. So yes, we are looking forward, or we are basically working on whether we are able to get some kind of Hindu priest here so that we can practice our different life cycle events on a larger community. That is also one of our plan and agenda, and we are also looking for working with the state, whether how the state can also support and how can we basically organize that kind of activities.
Thank you so much. One more question. There are some priests in Frankfurt, I believe. In the Afghan Hindu temple, they have a priest who came from India and who was trained there. And it seems to me that he will stay for a long time. But when you think about having a priest in the future, would it be more of a model where someone comes for a few years and then returns to India and someone else comes? Or would they migrate permanently and be in charge of a community here? Or have you even not thought about that?
No, we thought about it. We had worked also several years in our community. We worked about it. But before going to a priest, our agenda is to build up a temple. That is our first agenda. Then comes the priest. So here is the first challenge. As Mr. Balashna told, to bring all together with one mission. And also here all the Indian Hindus are working class. We don't have many big business class. Whereas if you go to UK, we have big real Hindu business class people who can contribute up to €1 million, something dollar or pound. And we have very big 5-star temple in Lakshmi Narayanan temple in UK, which is much bigger than an Indian temple. Yeah? So, and also to construct a Sri Lankan managed temple in Hum, it took many years for them to build such a huge, big temple. So we again think, okay, do we want to temple and priest is a priority, or to be part of the worship what we already existing? This is. Then comes the second. Once we are like what you called in the management needs hierarchy. Yeah. First, to support what is available and to be part of it. Then if you are able, then we can go to the next level to build up our own temple. We have 2 or 3 times we worked really hard to go further, and then comes the challenge. Okay, building a church, building a temple is not a big challenge. We can do it, but the maintaining, to having a priest a regular way, and also again not with one priest, because again comes the belief, because somebody died in the family, we cannot do a worship. The priest is not allowed to do the worship in the temple, so he has to be away for certain days. And if a new birth happens, these are all traditions. And again comes, as Mr. Balashna told, every state and every corner has got a different ways of thinking. So, like in our state, we believe, okay, if a lady give a birth to a child, the child should not be allowed to go to the temple because it's little in the very basic stage. Certain months to be wait in the house before we go to a temple. But there are some, the next day you can go to a temple to do like a instead of baptism, we have some, like in the stage of the child, we have something. And every region has got our own ways of thinking. So to bring all together is a real challenge. Thereby we are little a step back, concentrated in our homes, do a prayer according to our ways of working, and do a prayer worship. It's like we call it as parayan, or like preaching by music or different ways. So this is the easiest way and a stable way. Like in Corona period, now again go back to the online teachings and online worship method. That also gives us more regularity now. Previously, getting together is a challenge. Located people from different areas, parking, reaching the place, all challenges. So we have a maximum around 30 or 40 families, so people can join together. Now we can go to 100 and 200 people or online. So getting a priest is a real challenge. To get a priest which fits our needs, our means who is our? That is the first question. It's not we two, or just only not the Hindu foreign with the 10 or 15 or 100 members. We are talking about 60,000 Indian families in Frankfurt or Hessen. So to accommodate 60,000 Indians, Hindus, is a real challenge.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. I'm thinking, we have a bit more time. And I would also like to hear a bit more about how you experience the coexistence of the different religions in Germany, if you would like to tell the viewers a bit about that.
Maybe you can.
I mean, there are more than just the Catholic and Protestant Christians.
I think from our side, on one word, we don't find a big challenge or issues. As we mentioned, I mean, we are very liberal. We don't have any as a Hindu mind with us. We are open for, we can go to church, we can also go to a mosque, we can also go to a temple at the same time with the same mind, with the same spiritual seeking. To an extent we can do it. So that is why we don't see anything, because we are open and liberal, so we don't see any kind of hindrance for that. Yeah. So the religious minorities is existing. Obviously, everyone has the right for their practice. As long as it does not harm anybody else, then obviously that can be, that need to be welcomed, and that need to be practiced, and that has to be kept alive in Frankfurt. Yeah. So we don't have any bad experiences on a religion level here. Ethnicity, that's a different thing, but on a religion level, that was fine. We also have a lot of German, the native Germans, who also follow the Indian Hindu traditions. So they are, sometimes they are also coming together, and there are also some big ashrams by different Hindu traditions. If there is one near in Wiesbaden, there is one in Odenwald. So there are big ashrams. There they basically have their own way of gurus and rituals and so on. So there are some facilities here, but we don't, like I mentioned, the uniformity in Hinduism is, this is a unity in diversity. Yeah. The thread is the same, but there are different ways of managing it. But religious minority level, like if for coming to your question, on long story short, we haven't faced any problem on a religious minority level, in my knowledge. Yeah.
Maybe some little one or 2 points to add. As Balashna told, we don't have any, theoretically saying from the heart, we don't see any challenges because we are totally open-minded. But at the same time, something short heart as a minor religion or a minority in the country, there we seek for our coexistence a little support from the government or the legal way. For example, as we already mentioned, the preaching of our religion in a manipulated way or such things which happen when we report, at least the government should take a speedy action to stop such hindrances. This will give more, because we always respect other religions, other community, other country, other people, because as we already explained, we are not a religious man, rather we come with a certain culture. Hinduism is a culture. And that culture, when we exchange and we keep our doors open for everybody to come in and to see, and that does not mean you come and see what is a small dirt in there, rather you see what is white there, and you preach or you show it to the world, then we are happy. As I told already, many Europeans, Christians, Muslims, we don't think. When you come to a temple, we welcome them with both hands and we give our offerings. If you take or not, that is left to you, but we don't stop it. And we don't have anything to stop that, oh, you are not allowed to take. No, we welcome, and with full heart we give it to you. At the same time, if you just put a jinn with a Shiva name, and a bikini with the name of the, or the picture of the Ganesha, or a textbook demonstrating in a bad way you kill the people because a person has killed a cow or something like that. Because even from my house, I'm a meat eater. Yeah? Earlier I had also many times eat rabbit meat. But since more than 6-7 years, I have rabbits or caniche in my house. And after that, I hesitate to eat. That does not mean that it is a god or something belief, because it is a family member. It is the same thing as cow. We believe it is nothing called a god or something. It's along with us. And our coconut tree, we believe we have a trust in the coconut, because every part of a coconut tree is useful for our daily life. That gives a respect to the tree. That does not mean that we are worshipping a coconut tree or something happens. So when Western media or something penetrate or take something, you should say the fact, you should learn and go deep into the facts, and you publish the fact, not like pointing out a mistake. So this is where we are really struggling about the coexistence, and there we look for a support. Such issues when we report. Mm-hmm. Like, we didn't ask anybody to remove the Kashmir from India. Why some companies, what is achievement for them? It is creating an issue among the Hindus in other countries, or among the people of the, it is not only for the Hindus, for the country people in the other countries. You create a friction between them. You create just a carpet if you put, and we don't think that, okay, better if you Jesus or Islam or like what you call moon and star or something in the carpet, and if we every time if we keep our food there, is it a respect? No. We don't think that is a respect. But if you put a carpet in the front with a goddess, Hindu god, and if you want to sell it, that hurt us. That's what we are looking for, a coexistence of the minority or like small religion. Maybe you have a different thinking, or you have something to say about it.
Well, when it comes to engaging with members of other faiths, I focus, and I always remember something that was once said by Krista Stendahl, who was a well-known Protestant theologian from Sweden. When my church announced plans to build one of our temples in Stockholm, there was some resistance, and he stood up for us and articulated 3 principles for a respectful interfaith dialogue. The first one was, if you want to learn about another faith, talk to their practitioners first, to those who practice this faith day by day, and that's what we're doing today. Second, don't compare your best to their worst. So from a Christian perspective, comparing Mother Teresa to extremist or terrorist tendencies in other religions is not a fair comparison. And the third principle, and that's something I particularly love and to think about, is he encouraged people to always leave room for holy envy. That's an expression he phrased. So when I meet Hindu friends or friends of any religion, I first see and first think about, what do I find admirable? Which aspects of their faith apparently enriches their lives? Which is not to say that I'm going to be less firm in my faith and my convictions, but I feel holy envy towards you and towards practitioners of almost all faiths.
Yeah, exactly. You are absolutely right, because we never say that we have a Catholic friend or evangelist friend or Muslim friend. We say that we have a friend from Iraq, we have a friend from Afghanistan or something like that, or from other country. We never say that you are a Muslim friend, or we never say that. This is why I'm saying that about the culture and give and take. Respect each other and be together.
Right, so I take from that actually, and I'm a bit surprised about it, but as far as religion goes, you seem quite content with the situation in Germany, but stereotyping, and I don't want to call it racism, I think it's more ethnocentrism, and then this idea that the others from other continents are exotic somehow. And this is something that we need to work on, and also maybe to find simpler structures for those who are not so familiar with the political system in Germany, because I think all of the issues that you have mentioned, there are actually places to address complaints to, but they are scattered in very different areas of society. So there could be a consumer council when it comes to the carpets, there could be a publishing house for the school books, which is a very slow process. Books are often used for 10, 20, even 30 years before the next one is published for a certain subject. And there are discrimination offices at the city levels, at the state levels, at the federal levels. So I think, for people who are not so familiar with the system, it's actually quite complex to navigate those structures. And maybe that's something that, I don't know how you, as a political scientist, think about that, but maybe that's one field where we need to improve.
Well, certainly. If we look at the legal system regarding to church and religion, that framework was put into place when the religious landscape was significantly less diverse than it is today. And the landscape has changed over the last 100 years and more. The basic law, the German Constitution, still makes references to the Weimar Republic Constitution. And that's the time period that our laws were framed, and there have been adjustments made, of course. And I know that some of my friends from other religious faiths find it difficult to somehow match the criteria and fit into the schemes and into the ideas of law that were designed to accommodate Protestant and Catholic churches. So yes, certainly a little more openness and talking to each other and being accommodating to the fact that our world is colorful and diverse, and that can at times create controversy, but it also is so enriching and makes life interesting. And I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with the two of you today.
Yes, I think that's almost a perfect ending. I would just like to pass the microphone to our other guests to hear if there's something that you would like to say to the audience that we have before we finish. I think we have 2 more minutes.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, that's a good, perfect ending, and that's a good message. And personally, I should also thank, in this present scenario, I should thank Corona. One side is, yeah, we talk about religion, we talk about our difficulties, we talk about minorities, and other side, we all should think we are all humans. The blood is same, the body is same, there is no difference in skin, because we all saw that irrespective of religion, caste, creed, color, everybody is put in the same place due to the corona pandemic. If it is in US or in Europe or in India, Asia, everywhere is the same. So we are all ending in the same dig together. We don't see that it is a Christian nearby or a Hindu nearby or a Muslim nearby or a black or white, nothing. Everything is packed in white plastic bags and put it in a dustbin like. So I think I should thank Corona for such, at least the next generation or the present generation should think little more that we are all humans and we all stand together just for humanity.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My closing comment is thank you very much for the religion, that this kind of interfaith dialogue is organized and then promoted. And this is basically giving us a chance to have some questions and learn from others and take the good things and then see how to enrich our own practices and culture and also to tradition, and to ensure that everyone can coexist, to be more colorful. So experience also something different and then knowing about others. That is the main thing. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.